nevertheless, you wrote the essay, Why I'm not going to vote this time or ever.
Yeah.
I think is
why I won't vote this year or any other year.
Or any year. And the basic idea...
I hope you do a better job reading it than you just read that title. I guess you'll take as many takes as necessary.
I'll read it in Russian and then pay somebody to translate it.
This isn't even Russian at all. He just make up words. Where'd you find this guy?
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
This is anarchy.
This is what you wanted.
Like your basic summary is, let me see. If pressed, the simplest explanation I have for refusing to vote is this. I don't vote for the same exact reasons that I don't take communion. No matter how admirable he is or how much I agree with him, the Pope isn't the steward over my soul, nor is any president the leader of my life. This does not make me ignorant or evil any more than not being a Christian makes me ignorant or evil. If I need representation, I will hire the most qualified person to do so.
Yeah.
Isn't voting our current best developed way of hiring the most qualified person to represent you on some things?
No, because if I have a lawyer and the lawyer screws up, I can fire him. If I vote for someone, I don't get who I want. I get for who my neighbors want. So that makes no sense. But representation means I want you to speak for me. Whereas voting is like, I kind of want you, but I'll take what I can get. And I'm going to take what I could get regardless. So what's the point?
What in governance, again, that's what Bitcoin is. You want to be represented in deciding what to do, but once...
Wait, Bitcoin isn't picking a person. They're not picking a president of Bitcoin.
Right. They're picking an idea.
Yeah, it's more like a referendum.
Right.
And to me, a referendum is much more coherent and defensible than it is voting for representative. Because if I'm voting for Joe Biden, I'm saying this person speaks for me for abortion, taxation, environmental policy, immigration, war, right? The odds that unless you're a complete NPC, that this one person will speak for you for everything and will deliver what he promised and has the power to deliver what he promised is not true. Whereas if I have Brexit, if I say I want Britain to remain part of the European Union, this is a yes or no question, that makes a lot more sense to me. Yeah. But even that is not pure democracy, because going back to the idea of the circulation of the elites, which James Burnham talked about, Pareto and Mosca and all them, you're still going to have someone telling you what you can and can't vote for and how these questions are framed. So in contradiction to what the left anarchist said, some element of hierarchy is always going to be inevitable.
So, listen, I agree with this aspect very much so, that we should be voting for ideas and issues, not voting for leaders, for leaders to represent us across the full spectrum of issues. Right. It seems to make no sense.
Okay, good. Man, this is great.
But I do think there should be a leader. I do believe in voting for representatives to debate, to be communicators of ideas to us.
But here, let me start to interrupt you. But you could have those two things. For example, wouldn't this be an improvement if they have that now? You have a referendum. Do you want the tax rate to be 30 or 40, whatever percent?
Yeah.
You have the guy leading the campaign for 50, fight for 50. Then you have the lady leading the campaign for 40, fight for 40. They'll go out there. They can have debates. They can talk about the issue, but you're still not voting for one of them. You're voting for the issue. That makes much more sense to me than I'm going to vote for him and hope that he puts forward 50, and that depends on 99 other senators.
Right, exactly. And but also, I mean, I do like the idea of voting for certain people to debate certain ideas.
Yes.
Right?
I think that's a major improvement.
But the final vote should be based on the idea. So, okay, so we agree. That would be nice to have, plus no wars, and then you'll stop tweeting so aggressively.
And to decriminalize things that don't hurt people.
Drugs.
Victimless crimes. Drugs, especially prostitution, is a big one. And this is me talking, Mr. All cops are criminals. There's no one, or maybe other than like abused children, who needs access to the police other than sex workers.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are the most likely to really put themselves in a dangerous situation. So they need to be able to call security, because that's why they have pimps. Because you're a woman dealing with some strange dudes who are a lot of the time going to have weird kinks. You want to be able to be sure even if you don't approve of prostitution, think it's horrible, that she's not going to be raped and murdered and have no consequences. And if you're going to say, oh, well, she's a prostitute, she can't be raped, I just think for a second, if you're agreeing to sleep with somebody and then he starts choking you and beating the crap out of you and saying it's a dom situation, that is clearly a beyond the pale assault.
And the same thing with drugs,
Yes.
heroin, cocaine, crack. The people that need help the most are the ones who are addicted to those drugs.
But even the ones who need punishment, let's suppose you think drug dealers should be in jail, right? It is very hard for me to say that someone who sells cocaine should be treated or in the same building as someone who rapes children or is a murderer. These are not similar types of evil, even if you believe that drug dealer is an evil person.
Yeah, I have...
there's an essay in there called by Alexander Berkman, who is Emma Goldman's partner in crime, on prisons and crime. And this is leftism at its best, forgetting the person who's forgotten. And the fact that we have the world's largest prison population, the fact that so many people are just like, oh, you commit a crime, just put them in jail, throw away the key. At the very least, if you want to be totally amoral about it, it's expensive. And second of all, the concept that all criminals should be locked in a room together in these kind of largely inhuman conditions, and that's going to help people. I don't think that's the ideal mechanism.
Yeah, I tend to believe, I usually don't speak so negatively about politicians, but I do think that politicians have done more evil in the war on drugs than did the people that are supposed to be the criminals in this picture. And
I'll give you another example of how this is the anarchist critique of power. Hunter Biden, and I'm not making fun of him, I'm not taking shots at him. He had an article in the New Yorker where he talks about when he was in LA, he was buying crack and there was a misunderstanding, or like he left the crack pipe in the Hertz car and then blah, blah, there's an issue. He's admitting to a felony in writing to a reporter. And I'm sure this was within the statute of limitations. There was no possibility he was going to have consequences. Kamala Harris, who was a cop, talked about when she was in college, she was smoking weed. And it's like, I don't begrudge you guys smoking your crack or smoking your weed, but for other people who are poor or maybe just had the short end of the stick, this is years of their life being destroyed. At the very least, even an arrest is a traumatic situation.
Yeah.
If you have a weed or cocaine or crack, you're arrested. That's really going to screw up. It's going to do a number on you being locked up. So to have that double standard to me is completely unacceptable. And that has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. George W. Bush was a cokehead back in the day. He talks about overcoming his addiction, and I'm glad that he did. More power to him. But just to have this kind of, it's just really kind of disturbing to me. And this is my anarchist brain, like how prevalent drug use is in college. There's that, I think it was a joke on South Park, like there's a time and a place to try drugs, and that's called college, where people experiment. But all those college kids, which are going to become next generation's elite, don't really have that worry that if they get caught, then anything's going to happen to them. But that kid in the street who did not have that good upbringing, even if he's a piece of crap, like he's not going to have a different punishment. I think that's just really at its base un-American.